Very good evening. It's Friday night. It's gone 7 o'clock with a wee bit of post-production meeting there, just talking about what we're going to be talking about. So apologies, we're a few minutes late. But it's, as always, it is the football pitch here, live on YouTube with myself, Cammy McDonald. No Dennis Newell again tonight. Apologies for that, but he has assured me he'll be back and up to full strength and everything else and ready to go again next week. But we have been gratefully joined by Graeme Duthie, show regular. Good evening, Graeme. How are we?
I'm good, mate. I'm regretting the fact I went and played 4 hours of football with my son and his pals earlier on. My legs are now absolutely killing me and I can't move.
Yeah, Graeme when his Hearts, stripped them in Hearts colours for some strange reason. But we're also joined tonight by another Hearts supporter. Hence the title of the show tonight, Two Hearts Unbeaten as One. The best I could come up with, it's a play on an old tune. It's probably was out long before Molly was born, might even have been out before Graeme was born, but we are joined by content creator, sports journalist, Molly Grant. Molly, good evening to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Good evening. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. Obviously, we sort of met on, or not so much met, sort of came across one another on TikTok, seen a wee bit of your content. As I say, anybody wanting to go and follow Molly on TikTok, feel free to do so. We'll get all her details and Graeme's details towards the end of the show, in the middle of the show. But as always, I will ask you, go ahead, like, subscribe on YouTube to the podcast. It does help us out a whole bunch. So, we've got two Hearts supporters with us tonight. So, as always, we'll start in Europe and talk Hibs. Apologies, guys, but Hibs came through, I wouldn't say unscathed last night. Certainly a tie they made much more difficult than necessary. Obviously on the back of a good victory last week, guys. But Molly, what was your thoughts last night on Hibs managing to stay in Europe with an extra time victory, shall we say, or an extra time aggregate victory over Partizan Belgrade?
Yeah, I think there's always part of you that wants to see Scottish teams doing well in Europe. It's that sort of mutual feeling, I think, between quite a lot of clubs now. The Hearts side of me, maybe not as much, but nah. You do have to give it to them. Obviously, it's Europe at the end of the day, and hopefully they do about as well as we did in Europe last year, and it dwindles out the league. So that would be ideal.
Yeah, indeed. The thing is, we've got two Edinburgh sides, both unbeaten in Scottish football this season. Obviously, Hibs lost against Midtjylland a couple of weeks ago. But, Graeme, they've gone through, thanks by and large to Kieran Bowie with an outstanding goal. I mean, anybody who's not seen that, they really do want to take a look. Because whether he plays for Hibs, whether he plays for Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, Liverpool, Manchester United, whoever, that's a goal that people will not get sick fed up watching this season. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, to be fair, it was a fantastic goal. And I think the person you'll be thanking him was Jordan Smith for the night that he had. But it's a fantastic goal. It wasn't even just the goal. His overall game was very impressive. His link-up play, his touch, his working back off the ball as well was very, very impressive. It was a great performance from Kieran Bowie yesterday. And I know that there was talk during extra time about maybe coming off, but I don't think you take off the guy that's been the best player in the park for me. And it was a fantastic goal. I mean, you look at Ben Brandon's goal last week at Easter Road. I think that one probably tops it. It's a brilliant finish because it was out of nothing. There was no real danger. He's taken that on the half volley, top corner. I mean, even I've seen Hearts fans on Twitter applauding it. It was a brilliant goal. And I think based on that now, I kind of think he probably should be the starting striker for Scotland. I don't think he will be, but I think based on his performances yesterday and what I've seen the last couple of games, he probably should be.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we've talked here the last couple of weeks actually about Martin Boyle, Kieran Bowie, and how they've been performing obviously for Hibs. That goal last night was just out of this world, Molly. It really was, and the fact is, as Graeme says, he's taken it out of nothing, but to spot the keeper just everything about it. That other than the fact he was wearing green and white and it wasn't maroon, you can't really fault that goal at all.
No, absolutely not. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be scoring those. They're not something that comes about often. You take your chance when you've got it, and when you score it like that, there's no arguing it. Keeper's never saving it. And much like what Graeme said there as well, Hibs keeper will be more than thanking him for that. That was just, it was a very, very good goal.
Yeah, Smith, unfortunately, probably the downside last night. He definitely had a howler. When we spoke on here, you'll have seen some of the comments on our TikTok page as well from Hibs fans a couple of weeks ago. After Dennis had given him at large, in terms, obviously, he feels they were kind of shaky at the back, more so the kind of back three. I don't think the back three did a great deal wrong last night, but Jordan Smith, what the hell he was playing at, particularly for the second goal. The first one was bad enough, but that second goal, it's a soft header. It's the middle of the goal. As a keeper, you've got to be dealing with that, Graeme, surely.
Yeah, I mean, the term Hibs in it was used a couple of times yesterday, and pretty much both of them were about Jordan Smith. I think the second one is worse. I mean, the first one, yes, he should do better. He gets a hand that he should do better. But the second one is inexcusable. How that goes under him, you've got to be saving that, and he'll know that. But I will say, though, there was a lot of talk about could he be replaced at half-time. His head was gone. He actually did well second half. There was a lot of pressure on him, and he did well second half. And I think you've got credit with Gray. It would have been easy for Gray to get, do you know what, we'll get him out of there. And that might have dented his confidence, but you kept him on. And the second half, it was far, far better. So, yeah, very, very poor first half, but he did redeem himself, I think, second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed, Molly made 3 or 4 good saves, particularly towards the end of that, where obviously Belgrade or Partizan were really pushing to try and get that goal to take it into extra time. He made 3 or 4 really, really good saves. So, as Graeme said, he maybe redeemed himself, but had he not made the 2 howlers, we wouldn't have been in that, or Hibs wouldn't have been in that position anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is again that situation. The mistakes that you make, they reflect on what happens for the rest of the game, and he's very lucky that his players could continue playing with confidence and keep going and finish the way that they did on the, because it's easy enough to just sit down at that point and go, well, you know what, that's it, it's done. Just leave it. And it could have gone either way last night. Honestly, it was just
Yeah, as you say, Hibs could have Hibsed it. Unfortunately, it was Dundee United that really Hibsed it. 4-2 up on aggregate, losing 2 goals to Vienna to bring it back to all square, and then obviously on penalty kicks, losing out in the most heartbreaking way. But Graeme, it shouldn't have been there anyway. Dundee United looked as though they had done enough last night to get through into the next round, but unfortunately, as we say, Scottish clubs is -1. Dundee United out unbeaten, if you like, in regulation time in all their games, but still going out in penalties.
Yeah, when you go 2-0 up through Max Waters, you're thinking you see the game out, and if you get another goal, obviously the game's done. It was always going to be a worry that if they lost a goal, they were going to get Rapid Vienna back in, and that's exactly what happened, and they couldn't kill the game off. That was disappointing, and then to lose on penalties, it's a shame for the guy that missed the only penalty for United. Clearly, Rapid have been working on them because they scored all of theirs, but it's a horrible way to go out. They're out of Europe before Aberdeen have even gone into it yet. It's not a good time. And I thought they did so well last week in Vienna to get the draw, and you think, right, bring them back to Tannadice, a packed stadium, great atmosphere by all accounts. It was a great atmosphere, and to be 2-0 up, you've got to see it out. You've got to use it. I know they've maybe not got the most experienced squad, but you've got to see it out, and they've not been able to do that, and it's a horrible way to go out. And I know that Jim Goodwin and that United fans are saying they're proud, and I get that, but there's got to be regrets because that game is there to be won yesterday, and they've not done
it. Yeah, indeed. It is such a shame. I mean, Dundee United, they've been a club with a proud heritage in Europe, under Jim McLean, what he did for a provincial club. We've spoken about, obviously, the provincial clubs recently, but for a provincial club, what Jim McLean did, and they just haven't been there over the last 10, 15 years. So to get back into Europe, a tie that they should have won, that was definitely there to be won. And getting into that, I think they would have been in the group stage, am I right? Or is it there another round before it would have got to the group stage?
I think they had one more round to get through, I think.
One more round. Yeah, I've lost track of how many rounds we need to play. Pretty soon we'll be starting European football in March, I think, in Scotland. But as I say, just for them to go out in such a way, Molly, it could well set back the rest of the season. You said what it did for Hearts last season. It could well set Dundee United back for the rest of the season if they let it affect them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Graeme will know as well as I do. It is soul destroying watching your club, doing so well to start with, or being in Europe and you fought all the season before that to get into it, and you step foot into it, and it just crumbles. And it is again, it's a confidence thing where your team can bounce back with something like that. I don't think it's going to be something that Dundee United will really struggle to get back from. I think they're lucky in the sense of sort of going out now. They're not into the deep part into it now. It's just they're just put it behind them and keep going. The league's their next priority now.
Yeah, Scottish clubs are used to it anyway. Unfortunately, we're used to early exits and probably having to rise from that. But again, the other club in Europe, Rangers, not the greatest of performance, but they've done enough at Ibrox in the first leg. 2-1 away defeat on Tuesday night in the Czech Republic. But as I say, they've got enough. I mean, they're through 4-2 in aggregate. And yeah, I mean, some of the Scottish clubs there, Hibs, Rangers, we'll get Celtic to come through, and Aberdeen, as you say, Graeme. So we're going to have a presence in Europe, and it'd be great to think we could emulate what they did last season in terms, obviously, both Rangers and Celtic, and perhaps Hibs and Aberdeen as well.
We need to get the coefficient up. We've struggled for a long time. We need more Scottish clubs in Europe, and when we get there, we've got to do better. And I include Hearts in that. When you get to European football, we've got to do better. It would be nice to get more teams in there. I mean, Rangers, it was all about getting through, but for me, they don't look impressive yet under Russell Martin. They don't look they've got a balance to the team. They don't look they've got a game plan. It's very slow, very side to side. In all the games that they've played so far in Europe and domestically, they've conceded over 100 shots at goal, which is incredible when you think about it. They just don't look like they've got a cohesive team yet. And I think against Club Brugge in the next round, they're going to have to be a lot better because they're a level above. Club Brugge are a far better side than what they've played so far. If they get through, fantastic. But what I've seen so far, I don't think they look particularly great. And I think Club Brugge could be a bit of a step too far for them.
Yeah, I think possibly, Molly, the fact that it's in Europe, Rangers seemingly are going to struggle in Scotland this season. They've struggled against Motherwell. They certainly struggled against Dundee. Anybody who watched our first episode this season will realise our thoughts on Dundee, and Rangers have struggled against both these clubs domestically. European-wise, they do look a different outfit, but as Graeme says, Club Brugge, it's going to be a different game, Club Brugge are definitely at least one step up from the two clubs Rangers have played so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think they will struggle a bit. I think it's, they're coming into like a new era again for them. They're coming in, new manager. They've got new players slowly sort of coming in here and there. There's been a few names thrown about the place and kind of fizzled out before much came about it. But yeah, I think they're going to struggle somewhere this season, whether that be mainly just in Europe, whether that be they might struggle a bit in the league. Obviously, first two games not extremely convincing.
Yeah, but it is one of these things, I mean, obviously you two are from through the east. I mean, tell me somebody that doesn't work with Rangers or Celtic supporters, no matter where you're from, But I mean, I work with several Rangers supporters, and they've been very, very critical of Martin's style of play. That they're really, really worried as to the amount of possession football Rangers are having within their own half. That they're not penetrating the opposition. They don't look like scoring a lot of chances, and obviously they have a back four, back five, whatever they're playing, who maybe aren't as comfortable in the ball as they would like. So they're going to give up chances across that back line as well. So I think if you're Hearts, if you're Hibs, if you're Celtic, you should be revelling in the fact that Rangers are going to give you a lot of chances this season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you look at what Dundee have done to them, look at what Motherwell did to them. They both had chances, and that would be a worry, especially when you're at Ibrox against a team like Dundee. You're giving up chances like that. That shouldn't really happen. So I think Rangers look vulnerable. Now, I think they will get better over the course of the season. And I can see what Rangers fans are saying about the fact that it is very slow, because it has been. I think Mikey Moore will make a difference. I think he's a cracking young talent, Mikey Moore. But they're going to have to be far, far better. They need to move the ball quicker. And as I said, against a team like Club Bruges, if they get chances, they'll take them. I think the only positive I can see for Rangers right now has been the performances of Jack Butland. And yet last season, he was getting criticised heavily. But so far, he's been Rangers' best player just now.
Yeah, I think early season, but Molly, Butland was decent last season. It was only as the season progressed, possibly as Rangers were giving up more chances to the opposition, that things started to fade for him, But again, I thought Butland last season was exceptional, except in 3 or 4 games, and these 3 or 4 games seem to be his downfall.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there was a lot to take out of last season for Rangers. I think a few games they really should have won it, and he was maybe at fault for some of it. But yeah, I think from speaking to a few people at the start of this season so far, it seems to be a lot more comfortable for him in a way.
Yeah.
But the overall quality of their squad, I think, just it needs work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think you're right. And that's going to take time. It's going to take 2 or 3 windows, I think, till Rangers are settled down and look like being a force aside to maybe challenge Celtic. That challenge this season so far looks as though it could be coming from your side of the country, from the east, be it from obviously Hibs, be it obviously from an outstanding Hearts. And Molly, Hearts this season so far have been outstanding, and I know Graeme was a bit wary of singing their praises too much early doors with the challenge, Mickey Mouse, Dumpling Cup, whatever you want to call it, but they've taken that on in the league. I think the fact that Hearts pushed on last week, obviously they came from behind, scored early, then came from behind against Dundee United. I think that all really does augur well for a fantastic season for your club, Molly.
Yeah, I'm the first one to say I'm very optimistic. I think this will be. It looks very promising compared to what we've seen the past few seasons. You look back at those now and you're thinking, what on earth? How did we put up with that? How was that something that we sat there and went, okay, this is acceptable? Compared to the quality of what we've got now, I think some of the biggest players that we've brought in, I'm absolutely obsessed with Alexandros Kizaridis. I think he is insane. He reminds me a lot of when Kai Devlin first came in. That sort of very quick paced, very I'll run here, there, and everywhere. Where do you want me? Where do I need to be? And he just darts halfway across the pitch in the time you've blinked. I think Claudio Braga, again, a lot of people have said it already, he's going to be one of these players that comes in, you're almost starstruck looking at them. You're wondering, where did you come from? How did we find you? Like, what? This is what we've been missing for so long now. And it's a sigh of relief to have found it. I think last weekend, it was a bit nervy watching it. The couple of mistakes, Xander Clark, sort of couple of loose passes here, there. I think was it the first goal that they scored? There's no taking away from it. It was either the first or the second goal, sorry.
I think it was the first one.
But there's no taking away from it. I mean, it gets a hand to the ball, but realistic, you're not saving that. It was a very good goal. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that I've sort of read in the past week. A few people are making, I think, quick snap judgments on Xander Clark, saying, oh, that was awful. I've seen a couple that have said get him out. I really don't agree. I think just your players are always going to have that games in a season. You're not expected to be perfect constantly, and it is just, yeah. I think the quality difference this season compared to previous is just it's amazing already.
Yeah, I mean that has been a difference, Graham. You know, even just watching Hearts, as Molly says, the pace you've got going forward. You know, other than Sander Clark last week with a mistake, it's going to happen. You know, yeah, it is. It is. You only need to look at midweek again. You know, or last night for Hibs. You know that keepers will make mistakes. That's inevitable. You know, it's how you bounce back from that. The side just pushed on, and I think Hearts under Naismith, Hearts later in the season as well, last season, you would have collapsed, you know, at that, having gone a goal in front and then losing the two. But you fought back, you pushed back, you looked great, you know, and you were good value for that victory for certain, you know. And I'm enjoying watching Hearts. You know my thoughts at times. You know, I've really enjoyed watching Hearts so far this season. What I've saw, a lot of its highlights, you know that, but I'm really impressed with him, you know. And Tony Bloom, he's getting his influence in there for sure, you know. And Hearts look good value, and I would not be surprised to see Hearts push on and be a big challenge to certainly one of the old firm, if not both of them.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a big change. I think the biggest thing for me is mentality. The change in mentality. Last season, if we go 2-1 down, we lose that game. Last week, we don't just think, right, we'll get a draw at this game. We actually go and win the game. That's a different change in mentality for me. I think you look at the way Derek McInnes has come in. Yes, the Premier Sports Cup games they should have won, but I've seen Hearts lose these games before. To win all 4 of them comfortably, score 16 goals, lose 1 goal is a very good start. Winning the 2 Premier League games against 2 teams in the top 6 last season, very good start as well. We've got pace in the team now. I think one of the biggest things we've actually got now, and I laughed at the time, as a set piece coach. We actually look a threat from set pieces now, which we didn't do last season or the season before. You've got a guy like Stuart Finlay that's got 4 goals already. The delivery, I've got sick amount of times that I've seen us not beat the first man from a delivery. It is very different this time. We look far better. I think another thing that I've noticed as well, we're not relying on Lauren Shankland anymore. You look at the squad depth we've got. It is mental how good that squad is. I look at the bench now, starting 11 strong. You then look at the bench and go, right, we've got 3 or 4 players can come on and change this game. All you've got to do is look at the Aberdeen game, first game of the season, 1-0 up. Didn't start the second half particularly great. He makes 4 changes and changes the system. Couldn't have done that last season. And even last week against Dundee United, we're 2-1 down at half time. A lot of managers might have thought, I'll leave it 10 minutes. Derek McInnes didn't do that. He made 2 changes, hooked Forrest and Kent, brought on Steinwender and Kizridis, and it changed the game. You've got an experienced manager that knows what he's doing, that knows the Scottish game, that's getting the best out of these players. Cammy definitely looks a completely different player. His level has gone completely up the way, and you can see the bond between the team. Now, we could all fall flat on his face tomorrow if we get beat by St Mirren, but there's a real difference in mentality, and I love the way that Derek McInnes talks. Everything he says is so positive. He talked about you shouldn't be here if you don't want to win trophies. That's what I want to hear. I haven't heard that for enough. Now, it's been 62 years since we won the League Cup. That has to change. It could change this season. But there's been so much different, and it's been talked about for so long. We finally have pace in that team. We are not now one of the slowest teams in that league. You've got Kizridis, you've got Braga, you've got Kabori that's come in, you've got Kyrgiota, you've still got Chesnikov to come in January. We just look a far better team. And, you know, if we do get beat, which we're going to at some point, I don't think it's one of these things we're going to go on a long run that's going to go like beat every week. Like last season, we'll pick ourselves up and go again. It is a complete change. And I've got to credit Derek McInnes for that, because he's come in and completely changed it. And fair play to him. Fantastic start.
Yeah. Molly, what have you done to Derek McInnes? Because at Aberdeen, at Kilmarnock, he bored the arse off you. You know, after games, he was just, it was just manager speak, coach speak, whatever it was. But Graham's right. This move to Tynecastle just seems to have found McInnes has found a different level, you know, and fair play to him. You know, this is almost a guy, and apologies for drawing parallels here, but this is almost a guy that's kind of, right, stuff that I was considered for the Rangers job. I didn't get it. I'm going to show everybody what they're missing. And it just seems to be a completely different Derek McInnes. And Hearts, I think this season will reap the benefits of that, Molly.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with with when he was at Aberdeen and stuff as well. It's just you're watching the interviews. He just didn't. There was sometimes he didn't sort of seem as engaged. Watching the interviews now, I can't get bored of it. After every game, the first thing I'm looking for is what's he said about it. What was the positive outcome of it this time? Like what's his biggest takeaway from it? And I think the way that he speaks about the squad as well, it's just like one big group of friends, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's nothing there's no hostility anymore. I know there was a bit of a talk sort of last season, towards the end of last season, players are like, oh no, like being in the change rooms, like being locked in a dungeon at this point. Like there's just nothing in there. You're just made to sit there, and that was it.
Yeah.
And now that McInnes has come in, it's almost like they all just look like they're having the best time of their life.
Yeah.
It's like watching your local team playing on a Sunday morning. Like they're all jumping at each other and everyone's involved. I think even the fans are getting it now as well. I've been at Tynecastle the last 2 home games. Even being in Tynecastle, everyone's smiling, everyone's laughing. There's always a joke going about somewhere. Everyone's singing away. Like I sit not far away from the ultras, so like listening to them as well, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Listen, I genuinely hope that Hearts do something. Molly, you'll not see behind me. Behind me, I've got a Washington Commanders fan. That's my kind of, as Graeme will tell you, probably get fed up listening to me last season. We were the same for 30 years. It was like watching paint dry. It was terrible. The atmosphere around the franchise, everything was dreadful. Last season, we brought in a new quarterback. We brought in a new coaching side. We brought in a new ownership. And it just did something to the franchise, enlivened everything. Coaches spoke so much better, everything was just freshened up. And that sounds exactly like what's happened at Hearts this season, And I think as a club, you are going to reap the benefit. I would not be surprised to see you lifting a cup this year, Graeme, whether it's a League Cup, whether it's a Scottish Cup. I think you will lift a trophy this season. I think you're going to challenge in the league anyway. And I want to see a club challenge Rangers or Celtic beyond Christmas, because far too long we see an Aberdeen or a Hibs or a Hearts or something like that put in a challenge, and come January, come the bad weather, come the transfer window, it falls in its arse and it lands flat. Hopefully you guys can keep it going. But is it the influence of Tony Bloom, Graeme? Is it the manager? Is it just a completely the fact that Anne Budge is going to be leaving the club? Is it just a one thing you can put your finger on, or is it just a conglomeration of many, many things coming together?
I think it's a bit of everything. And I think as well, you're never going to get every signing right. But the analytics, the Jamestown analytics has worked perfectly. Like pretty much everything we've made so far has been bang on the money. You look at Ocean McEntee. He came in, nobody knew much about him. I think he's been great so far. Obviously, Cledo Braga's come in. Everyone looks at the obviously attacking side of things. But I mentioned him earlier. Stuart Finlay wasn't a Jamestown thing. He's come in and been brilliant so far. So the signings have really worked so far. We've got Pierre Cabora that's come in as well. He looks pretty decent as well. There's a lot to look forward to. And I think you look at the Tony Bloom interview that he gave at the Foundation of Hearts. And one of the very first things he said was, it's been far too long, Rangers and Celtic having domination. That needs to stop. And a lot of folk have laughed at that. And I'm thinking, why are you laughing at that? It's showing ambition. He didn't say we're going to win the league this season or next season. He said within the next 10 years. I don't think that's a bad thing to say. He wants to show ambition. Why shouldn't you? If any other team had a person like Tony Bloom come in, they'd be delighted with that. I think you've got to have ambition, or there's no point playing the game. If you don't go out there to win, what's the point? And even if you look at Derek McInnes, I've listened to Derek McInnes' interviews after every single game. And even after games that we've won, which has been every week, he's not been happy about things. And I like that. Last season, we wouldn't have got that from like Neil Critchley or Stephen Naismith. It would have been the same kind of playing to the media. Derek McInnes doesn't do that. He's too experienced. He comes out. It was a game, I think, against Stirling Albion, I think we won 4-0. And even after that, he wasn't happy. He wanted standards to get higher than that. And I love that as a Hearts fan. See, as a Hearts fan, I want to go to a game and see my team giving absolutely everything. If we've got beat but left everyone on that park, I can handle that. But there were too many times last season I saw players walking. Like, I watched that, obviously, the game against Hibs when Lawrence Shankland didn't close down Iredale for that goal. I was fuming. But this season, we look like a team that have got a bit of fire about us. We've got something about us this season that we didn't have last season. We're not going to get bullied. Too many times last season, I thought I was getting bullied by teams. That's not going to happen. Big physical Hearts are back, and I'm all for it. And I've already said before, I've said on my TikTok channels, I've got Hearts to win the League Cup. Now, I might end up getting egg on my face, but why not aim big? You've got to try, or there's no point being in it.
Yeah. Well, it'd be great to win the first trophy of the season, that's for sure, And yeah, definitely. I mean, we've done it the last couple of weeks. We've given Hearts a lot of praise, and we'll continue to do so. Hearts, and I'm sorry, guys, Hibs as well, in terms, obviously, the performances are great. But when we look back at last week's result and take Sunday, Hearts, as we say, we already talked about it, we're all blue in the face, winning 3-2 up at Tannadice. Hibs that again, 2-0 up against Kilmarnock, end up drawing 2 each. Celtic winning 2-0 at Pittodrie, and then the games on the Saturday, we talked about it, penalty to Rangers. We talked about it on our WhatsApp group, Graeme. Rangers 1, Dundee 1-0 up, and probably looked as though they were going to see the game out, but Rangers get a late penalty, convert it by Tavernier. Probably not. More than likely, definitely not, but in the earlier games, Livingston 3, Falkirk 1. I thought Falkirk would have got the result there, but proved to be not the case. And St Mirren 0, Motherwell 0 was the other result in the Premier League, So we're 2 games in, as we say, Hearts and Celtic at the top of the table. Long may that continue, certainly for Hearts. As I said, I'd love to see Hearts pushing Celtic as far as they can, and Scottish football needs a strong Hearts, it needs a strong Hibs, it needs as strong many sides as we can get to be strong, definitely, but if we can start, we get a challenge from the east side of Scotland, it's only going to be better for Scottish football, Molly, for definite.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's been, majority, I think, of people would agree with this, it's been very dominant the last however many years now.
Yeah.
There's never been change. They just switch about. There's nothing exciting anymore. I think as close to excitement as we got was Aberdeen winning all those games started last season, and then they got beat in the is it the league that they got beaten in that game? Or was it it was a cup?
It's cup, yeah.
Yeah, it was a cup, yeah. When they got beat by Celtic, and they just flattened, and that was it.
Yeah, indeed.
Added to it, it's not enjoyable anymore. I know a lot of people who have kind of stepped away from watching it as much. People have given up season tickets and everything recently for being, what's the point? Nothing's going to change, and there needs to be a change. And I think we're slowly getting the team that's going to be able to do something, that's going to be able to challenge for something. And much like what Graeme said there as well, the analytics coming in, the investments of Tony Bloom, everything's just looking up for us now.
Yeah, definitely is, and long may it continue. And talking about cups, seamless transition there. We've got the Premier Sports Cup, and the first game in that kicks off in about 5 or 6 minutes. You've got Celtic against Falkirk at Parkhead, live on the television in the Premier Sports Cup. Tomorrow, we've got Morton against Aberdeen, Partick Thistle taking on Ayr United, St Johnstone against Motherwell, St Mirren, Graeme, as you say, you've got Hearts tomorrow. That should be a cracker. That should be game of the day. And then the other game live on the telly tomorrow night is Rangers against Alloa. And then on Sunday, we've got Kilmarnock against Dundee United and Livingston against Hibs. Concludes basically the Premier Sports Cup there. Not many fixtures, I say, that will excite you. Partick Thistle against Ayr United, I think, could be a decent game. Tomorrow, Morton against Aberdeen. Potential banana skin there for Aberdeen. But beyond that, again, Motherwell obviously taking on lower league opposition in the shape of St Johnstone. But looking at that, you would expect, obviously, Rangers and Celtic to get through, obviously. I can see Morton, as I say, taking Aberdeen all the way. Aberdeen haven't really impressed me so far this season. Obviously, they haven't got a point under their belt in the league. Thistle have really failed to set the world alight in the league. So you would expect maybe United to win that. Kilmarnock against Dundee United. That should be a decent game on a Sunday as well, guys.
Yeah, I think what will probably help Kilmarnock is the fact United played last night. And I think that'll have taken a lot out of them. I know that the United have got a lot of injuries as well. I have a feeling that Kilmarnock might win that. I watched them last week. They were decent. They've got a couple of big laddies up front that look like units. I kind of think Kilmarnock will end up winning that just because of the exertions of European football last night for United, and that will take a lot out of them. Especially if they'd won the game, maybe different. But the fact they've lost on penalties, having done a lot of hard work, I think that'll have an effect on them, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Molly, is there any ties there that kind of stick out to you other, obviously, than your own one?
I think tonight will be a bit of an interesting one, to be honest, as you kind of know what the outcome's going to be. But I think the way that Falkirk fight for things majority of the time is always quite interesting. I watched a bit of sort of their games last year. It was always very, very attacking, very pressing. It was a good watch. It'll be interesting to see how they sort of challenge up against top flight. Maybe last weekend was just a slip up. You never know. But I think I much agree with Graeme on the point of Kilmarnock against Dundee United there as well. I think theirs will be an interesting one, sort of obviously the comeback from last night there. It's whether they do come back from that straight away or whether that just knocks them straight away.
Yeah, indeed. And that should actually make it a decent game at Rugby Park, but there's obviously nothing in either of the two top leagues this weekend in terms of fixtures, but there is some fixtures in League One and League Two. The League One games this weekend is Cove Rangers against Montrose, Hamilton Accies playing in Cumbernauld, taking on East Fife, Inverness Cali against Steny, Kelty Hearts against Alloa. That can't be playing, surely. No, that's postponed. And Queen of the South against Peterhead is the last game there in the League One for us tomorrow. Nothing there really outstanding, I don't think. But when we look at the League Two games tomorrow, we are looking at Clyde playing in Hamilton. I still can't get used to this, but never mind. They're at home to Spartans. Clyde have a dreadful record against Spartans. Tomorrow's the 11th time I think they've played Spartans since come into the league. Clyde have won one. Dumbarton against Elgin City, East Kilbride against Stranraer, Edinburgh City against Annan Athletic, and concluding result, the fixtures over the weekend is Forfar against Stirling Albion. As you say, Molly, I think we're at a stage now where Scottish football starting to stagnate a wee bit, and I think we need a kind of complete turnaround in what we can do. The Lowland League, I think, is going to do that in terms of they're changing what we're doing at Tier 5. But I think we need to get to a stage now where we regionalise the two bottom leagues in Scotland as well. I think it's got to be in terms of travelling support and everything else. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Do you think regionalisation's good?
Yeah, I've got a few sort of local teams like myself. Now there's sort of 3 or 4 within like a 20-mile distance out this way. And it is hearing where some of them are going to. I've got like friends who travel all about with the local teams and stuff. Hearing some of the places that they're travelling to for these games, and I'm just thinking, why are you sitting on a bus for like 6 hours?
Yep.
I think there's got to be something that can happen, surely.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing. You're going for Stranraer to Elgin. That's try doing that on a Tuesday night. I know Dennis Newell talks about it religiously till he's blue in the face, and obviously he's seen it as a football manager as well, so he's seen what it's like with part-time players, full-time supporters, but there has to be something done, in terms of shortening the journeys, some of them, there doesn't seem to be any thoughts in it at all, and I think regionalisation is something that's got to be coming. If we're looking at it in the Lowland League, where we're going to have a Lowland League East and a Lowland League West, it really is something, Graeme, that has to be considered, I think, in the bottom 2 leagues.
Yeah, but certainly, as I said before, the SPFL, SFA don't care. They've got no interest. I've long said for a while that I think the Premiership should have been reconstructed. and it never happened.
Yeah.
They had the chance to do it during COVID and didn't do it. Everyone voted for their own self-interest. And they won't do it because they don't care. All they want is the big games like Celtic and Rangers. That's all they care about. It would be far better, I think, if it was regionalised for the lower league teams. I mean, as you mentioned, they're having to travel all these long hours of your part-time on a Tuesday night and then having to get up for work the next day is ridiculous. But sadly, the SFA and the SPL just don't care.
No, it does seem to be that, and it is a shame. Hopefully it'll come. Perhaps a Lowland League reconstruction is something that's going to bring it on, but we can only see. Graeme, we always get you on to talk Liverpool occasionally. Obviously, Liverpool have had a tragic off-season, what's happened at the club. But tonight, they're back in action, so the Premier League in England is back. There's some fantastic fixtures in that over the weekend. But we don't think we got you on when Liverpool won the Premiership the last season. So obviously you can sing their praises, give you a few minutes to talk Liverpool just in terms of how you feel they're going to do. Spent big in the close season, see how things go.
Yeah, I was genuinely surprised we won the league last season with Arne Slot in charge. I didn't think it would work quite as quickly, but it was great. And I think this window's been very good. We had to strengthen. Everyone else is strengthening, and you need to keep going. I think Florian Wirtz is a great signing. Kerkez, Frimpong, Ekitike, fantastic. Nobody knows yet what's going to happen with Alexander Isak. That's an absolute mess. But there's no reason that Liverpool can't win it again. I mean, what happened with Diogo Jota and his brother Andre is just horrendous. Nobody expected that. I've been actually in Liverpool last week with me and my son. Were at the Anfield Stadium tour. And It was great. And we actually got to have a look around the kind of memorial on that for Diogo Jota. It was heartbreaking, seeing kids that have left their like Xbox and PlayStation controllers and the amount of flowers there. It still doesn't feel real. And I know that his wife Ruth and his kids are there tonight, which is great because he was a much loved player, as well as a human being as well. So that I think has an effect on Liverpool. There's no doubt about that. But they probably couldn't be off to a better start. They're playing against Bournemouth tonight, a game that will be difficult, but it's a game they should win. And I think the players that we brought in, I think have been fantastic. You've still got Mo Salah, who seems to score every single opening game of the season. Hopefully does it again today. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult battle this season because I think Man City will strengthen well. Arsenal have strengthened with Gyökeres. Man United obviously got Sesko, but I don't think they'll be up there. But yeah, I think this could be a very tight title race. This could go to the last day. But as long as Liverpool win it, then that's fine with me.
Yeah, indeed. Molly, do you have an English team or are you just purely and simply a Tynecastle girl?
I want to
Please
say,
don't tell me it's Liverpool.
the scarf sitting on the back of the door say a little bit differently. Yeah, Liverpool is
I knew Molly was a good girl and a good guest.
Yeah, I couldn't have picked this any better. I could have really, you know what I mean?
No,
and that's Borough's team.
As I probably should, and I want to get back into it this year. I used to be really, really into it. I'd say maybe like 2018, 2019, we were went down as a family down to the Tia Hotel just round the back from Anfield, and it was some different kind of experience watching the Champions League that night. End of May, it was just incredible. The passion and everything that comes from those fans, it's just unrivaled. There is nothing that will ever compare to that experience.
Yeah, as long as you enjoyed it. Hey, listen, it's one of these things. I'm not nailing any colours to the mast for an English side, so I'll stick with mine as Washington. That'll do me. That's fine. Listen, something else we need to talk about. Graeme, I put it in our WhatsApp group. A couple of things, and I think I'll actually start with the Kilmarnock situation first of all. The Kilmarnock women's football. Sky Stout, 16-year-old, recently signed for Kilmarnock Ladies, Kilmarnock women's football team, however you want to call it, whatever it is. She signed. Kilmarnock put up a post congratulating her in terms of signing, obviously made the announcement and everything else. Now, Sky then on social media received a torrent of social media abuse because of her appearance. So Kilmarnock then go ahead and take the post down, which we can debate about, I think. But what the freaking hell is the world coming to, that a 16-year-old signs her contract, signs for a club, and is abused on social media? Now, we know social media can be dreadful, it really, really can be, but she's 16 years of bloody age. What the hell is things coming to, Graeme, that is happening? What's going, and I'm really struggling not to swear, in terms of, that's why I'm breaking up here, because that would seriously piss me off big style. If that was a daughter of mine or whatever else, it would piss me off big style. It's freaking disgusting.
Yeah, I think you've picked the right word there. It is disgusting. This young woman is trying to make a name for herself in football. She signed for Kilmarnock, a really good club, a really good family club. She'll have been so excited. She'll have been absolutely buzzing with that. To get that announcement that you've actually signed for Kilmarnock at 16-year-old, and then to read the torrent of abuse that she got under the actual Twitter feed. I mean, social media can be great, and it can be an absolute cesspit as well at times. And that's one of the reasons why it can be a cesspit for stuff like that. And it seemed to be a lot of men that were commenting. But I think it's an absolute joke. This young girl has done nothing wrong. You can't fault anyone's appearance. It's not anyone's fault how they look. All you should be looking at is their ability. Are they good enough to play football? She clearly is, or she wouldn't have got signed at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an absolute disgrace that she's had to suffer this. And it seems like these people that have done this are just very sad individuals with no life. That's the only reason they're doing it. They're wanting clickbait. They're wanting other folk to like it. And thankfully, a lot of folk didn't, and a lot of folk actually called it out. But it shouldn't happen in this day and age. And I think for me, I think Kilmarnock's done the wrong thing taking it down, because that just basically says, actually, these people have won. That for me is not a good thing. Keep it up, because a lot of folk underneath the comments were actually saying it's an absolute disgrace what's happened to that lassie. I think they've done the wrong thing taking it down, because that just says to the guys, actually, you've won. What does that say to that young lassie? She's just signed for Kilmarnock, probably her dream move at 16-year-old, and it's had to get taken down because people are commenting on her appearance. It's an absolute scandal. And I hope these people are, I mean, I can't really choose the words I want to say, but they're absolute idiots, all of them.
Yeah. Molly, Graeme summed it up really, really well. And I know, obviously, when we were talking on air, it's part of the reason we were late starting, because we were talking about the Sky Stout situation. I can't believe I'm running these words together, the situation for the poor girl. But it's 16 years of age. How insecure are men out there that they feel that they have to abuse how a 16-year-old girl, or any girl, I mean, let's be honest, any girl looks, how fucking insecure are they that they've got to abuse somebody because she signs a football contract and maybe doesn't look the way they would envisage they would want a girl to look?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Graeme summed that up perfectly. There's not a lot I can add on to what's been said there. The way that she's been treated in the whole situation is vile. There's just nothing. There's no person in the world who is 16 years old signing your first professional contract with, like you said, probably your dream move at 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that should be your entrance into that. It is disgusting. And I couldn't believe it when I was reading it. You just sit there, my jaw was on the floor. You're just sat. How can people sit there and do that? That's my biggest question on that. And 100% agree with what Graeme said as well. The way that Kilmarnock have handled this, I don't think is professional in the slightest. I think that puts out a message that said, oh, well, we'll just take that down. You guys win. Enjoy your night. That's what that gave.
Mm-hmm.
There was no support. There is no word of support there for her. If you're deleting something, you have a remove comments button for a reason. Use it. There is no way that you should be taken down her first professional contract. I'm saying that. I'm assuming it's her first professional contract at the age of 16. There is no chance that you should be defeating that moment for her. That is massive, and massive congratulations to her. That is it's incredible.
Yeah, indeed. That's the one thing that I haven't said is congratulations to her for signing that contract, And you're right, Kilmarnock FC, unless Sky has requested that the post is taken down, there's Kilmarnock FC should have kept that post up, or Kilmarnock Women should have kept that post up, And as you say, there's a remove comments button there for a reason. Remove the idiot. Don't remove the girl who's celebrating doing what she's done, and signing her first contract, signing for her first club, Kilmarnock are the oldest ladies club in Scotland, so they should really excel and really reward that. Well, they have rewarded the girl with a contract, but they should be celebrating what she's done. Removing it, as you say, it gives credence to the idiots, it gives the half-wits have won again, and I don't think there's any way at all that you can justify one kind of comment denigrating a 16-year-old girl, for anything at all. Far be it from how her appearance is, and it's disgusting, absolutely vile. If you're watching this show and you're one of these idiots that did that, just get yourself to hell, and don't be here, and really stay off of social media. If all you can do is go on social media and abuse somebody for whatever, how they look, what their sexuality is, what their anything at all, just stay off social media and go out on a Saturday night and get drunk, and just stay away from everybody else. Graeme, you look as if you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, we're all content creators, whether we do YouTube or whether we do TikTok. We're all content creators, and every content creator gets half-wits that go live or make comments and stuff and basically hide behind a keyboard. Like, I would never, ever go into somebody's comment section and have a go at anyone for the way they looked or what they said, because that's just not me. But it's far too easy. It's far too easy for folk to sit at home, sit in their underpants or whatever they're going to do, sit at home and actually think, I'm going to type that. What are you getting from that? Like, what is the point in that? And to do that to 16-year-old girl who is basically just trying to live out her dream, to do that to someone like that is just, it defies belief to me. You're sitting there typing on a keyboard what you think she looks like. Who cares what she looks like? Is she a good footballer? Clearly she is, so she wouldn't have got the contract. That's what you should be focusing on. I just think at times that it's far too easy for folk to go on social media and to comment on people's posts or something and abuse them. You wouldn't do it to them in the street. You get knocked out if you did that. I just think it's an absolute farce, and it is far too easy for folk to go on social media and make comments like that.
Yeah. You're right. And as you say, you wouldn't do it in the street. That's not how you would do it. You're not going to go up to somebody. If somebody sees that girl in the street, I am damn sure that they ain't going to have the balls. And I'm going to say balls because most of the posts are by men, for sure. I don't think a woman would comment that. And I apologise for the obvious sexism, but I'm pretty sure a woman wouldn't go up and make that comment. As you say, Graeme, you wouldn't do it in the street. And prior to all this coming out, I'd posted on our WhatsApp group a question to all us guys on our WhatsApp group as regards what is acceptable behaviour in a football stadium. What's acceptable from supporters? Is there a level of, in inverted commas, abuse which is acceptable in stadiums? By that I mean obviously shouting at players. I don't necessarily mean obviously abusing somebody for their colour, their sexuality, or anything like that at all. But if you're trying to gain an advantage and put somebody off their game, what is an acceptable level? Is there an acceptable level? Is industrial language still something that we're allowed to have in football? So I posted that on the WhatsApp group, and by and large, the comments that came back, Molly, were when it gets personal, it's too much. Industrial language is still part and parcel of football, but when it gets personal, it's just too much. You get any thoughts on it, Molly? Obviously, somebody who wasn't a WhatsApp group, but any thoughts, Molly, in terms of what is acceptable behaviour from fans and what's unacceptable from fans within a football stadium?
Yeah, like I said it just before we came on as well, but it's just going soft now. Completely. I think some of the things that are being said and people are hitting back at it, being like, "Oh, well, you can't say that." Nothing part of it was offensive. Nothing was targeted. Nothing was personal. When it comes to shouting at a referee on a bad decision, I can't tell you the amount of times I hear that around me. I'm guilty, I'll say it myself. It is part of being a football fan. It's part of being in the stadium. It is part of the atmosphere. It is like ingrained into match day. You have to shout at least once or twice. If you don't shout, you've not been there. That is just how it is. And it will always be like that. And I said obviously at the start, people will shout for hard tackles, they'll shout at the referees for a bad decision. I know last year towards the end of last year, there was one where we had a referee who just couldn't play an advantage. There was just nothing being given, and there were shouts all around us, and no one bats an eyelid at that. And that's where when people are saying, it might just be this or it might just be that. Okay, sure, that's your opinion though. This is the shared opinions of everybody else. It is purely opinionated, and you can't argue with an opinion. It is just how it is, and it is, like I say, part of match day. You just can't do away with it.
I 100% agree with you. I think when it gets personal abuse, if you're calling someone out for, as I say, yes, it's sexual abuse, racial abuse, whatever else, having a go at somebody because you feel, that's what I'm saying here. But having a go at somebody, he's not macho enough, or he's a bit powder puff, that these are things that should be outlawed, I think, now within shouting. But if you're shouting, referee, that was a terrible decision. Or could you imagine a Hibs fan last night? What a wonderful goal, Kieran. It's going to be you effing beauty. That was, and if you're going to take that out of games, and I think, by the way, that's some of the outlines that are coming out, is they are trying to outlaw some of that things, be it on the park and off the park. I think players are getting to a stage as well where that could end up being a booking. And if that's the case, Graeme, I think there's something sadly wrong there within the game of football. Yeah, you can't be screaming at a referee, you're this, you're that. Question the decision 100%, but you can't be calling managers, referees, players, whatever, but surely you must be able to still have a bit of industrial language at games.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that. I think some of the players are actually worse than the fans are. I think I do catch myself when I take my son to the game. He's only 13. I do catch myself trying not to swear, but then folk around me are swearing. So it's like, well, there's no real point in trying to do that. But I think everyone else is right. When it gets personal, that's when I think you've got to take a stand. It should never get personal. Like, yes, I'll swear at referees, I'll swear at players. I mean, last season I swore at pretty much every Hearts player and the manager at times last season because you had to, because they were crap.
Yeah.
But I would never let it get personal. That's when I would go, nah, that's not going to happen. I just think, I sometimes think, is football going a bit woke at times? And then I look at the fact that, and this is for another show, I know, but then you look at, I was in Liverpool a couple of days ago, and I heard it on Sky Sports that they're going to do Barcelona against Villarreal in America. What are we doing to football? I mean, seriously, What are we doing to football here? Forget the fact that folk are swearing at games. That's a lot worse than that for me. So yeah, I think we are getting a little bit kind of to the stage that football's not the game it used to be anymore. You're trying to outlaw things that don't need to be outlawed. Swearing is part of the game. But yes, when it gets personal, then absolutely, that's when it should be cut out. But just stop trying to ruin football.
I'm going to disagree with you in Barcelona against Villarreal, but purely and simply, I'm coming at it for the other point of view. I mentioned Washington a couple of times. I'm getting to a game in Madrid this season. I wouldn't get to that otherwise, I'm going to Washington in 3 weeks' time, as you know, and the end of November or middle of November, I'm getting to a game in Madrid as well. So I'm going to disagree with you on that one, purely and simply because you can't have what's good for the goose is going to be good for the gander as well, or something like that, But no, I take your point. I think it's at a stage when football's chasing the money as well. Italy have been doing it for a long time. They've been taking the latter rounds of their cup to wherever it is. I think it's the UAE or Saudi Arabia or something like that. They've been doing it with that. And I think Barcelona, Villarreal is just the next step in that. And it's going to come in the Premiership. They talked about the 39th game for long enough. It will come because it's all about the money, as you say. It's maybe for another show and something we can debate at a future episode. But no, I think that's going to be coming, mate. I'm sorry.
Hearts v Hibs in Saudi Arabia. That'll be a laugh.
Yeah, indeed. I don't necessarily. I could just picture half a dozen guys from Edinburgh trying to get to the UAE or whatever else, get to Dubai for a game. But hey, it is one of these things. But listen, it's been a fantastic episode tonight. As I say, we touched on so many different things. Touched Hearts, touched Hibs. Obviously looked at Liverpool as well. Unfortunately, with the situation with Sky Stout, which I think we're all in agreement is absolutely abhorrent. And a wee bit of finishing there in terms of what's allowed in football games. So, Molly, how's it been? How was it for your first time?
It was really good, actually. Yeah, thank you for having me, like I said as well. I know I mentioned, obviously, to Graeme yesterday, I think it was, or possibly Wednesday, was terrified. So it's been very, very good. Yeah,
we're good guys here. We're not bad. And we brought on a Hearts and Liverpool supporter just to make you feel at home, So, no, you've been more than welcome back. It's good to get another voice, another viewpoint for definite, So if you're more than happy to come back, we'll be more than happy to welcome you on. So that'd be brilliant. Graeme, as always, thanks very much. Molly, first of all, content creator. Tell us a bit about where you create your content and what kind of stuff you're doing.
So at the moment, I'm creating most of my content on TikTok, just trying to build up something over there, get a name out there a little bit. I was very fortunate that you came across my content on there, and here we are now. So something's going well for it. I do vlogs at the moment, hoping to sort of expand out a little bit from that, finding my comfort zone with it all a little bit just now, getting help from people as well in regards to that. So it's, yeah.
Good. So what should people be looking for on TikTok? Where are they going to find you?
It's great when you forget your own username, isn't it?
Yes, and I can't help you out because I don't have it up here either.
No, it's okay. I'll find that myself.
This is live podcasting, folks.
Oh, damn, the one time it's not recorded. No, I've got it in front of myself here. So it is molly.grant with 3 T's at the end of that. Molly is spelled Molly.
There you are. So Molly.Grant with 3 T's. By the way, guys, it's a good watch, that's for sure, So go ahead, follow Molly again. I've done it again. Follow Molly on TikTok. Graeme, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I am on TikTok as Hearts_enthusiast. You can find me on there.
Yep, indeed. And again, TikTok's been a great platform. That's where I found Graeme and came across Molly as well, So I found the two of them on there. We hit 100 followers last night. So the football pitch in 2 weeks has went from nothing to 100 followers. So I'll take that. Mostly due to Graeme, I must admit. But if Molly can add on a few followers.
Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me.
Well, okay, right. Mostly to do with Graeme's views on Stephen Presley 2 weeks ago. Will we do it that way? So, guys, go ahead, subscribe to us all. Find us all on TikTok. Find the football pitch, as we say, on YouTube. We are live there I'm going to say every Friday night, but that might be changing in a couple of weeks' time. But that's purely and simply because of stuff I've already touched upon. We might still be running on the Fridays when I'm away, but we'll see what happens. But go ahead, like, subscribe to Molly.Grant, to Hearts_enthusiast, and as we say, to the.football.pitch on TikTok and on YouTube. So, guys, thanks very much as always. It's time to say good night. Good night.